and final feature. In our third triple feature spot is usually the exploitation-y item, and that is definitely the case with our third and final film, Slithis. AKA Spawn of the Slithis. Yes. Spawn of Slithis. I just refer to it because that's the poster art, the newspaper ad, everything just...
everything about it screams Slithis.
When you called the Rolling Hills Twin, they didn't say Spawn of Slithis. Yeah. They said Slithis plays tonight at 7:30.
But it needs to be said that the creature in this is not Slithis. It's not its name. But it comes from the Slithis.
Yes.
Which is a certain kind of inorganic muck.
It is a spawn of the Slithis.
Yes.
Okay, before we get into this whole thing, since you're going to start it off like that, what is Slithis?
Slithis is semi-inorganic, kind of like scales or a shell, muck that apparently within the reality of this movie becomes radioactive. And from the Slithis comes a
radioactive induced spawn organism.
Yeah, something that climbs out of that. There's a lot of scientific mumbo jumbo in this movie that somebody looks like they, were looking up stuff. And so they have an explanation for it. It's a traditional monster in that sense.
Yeah, no, it's a very traditional monster. That's the best thing about the movie, all right, is that it's a proper monster movie.
They set up their rules and they stick to them.
Again, a beautiful media box, magnificent media box. In fact, I will even go so far as to say that both Roger and myself watched a 35 millimeter print of Slithis, and we watched the media home video copy of Slithis, and dare we say we actually preferred the media home copy version. So in the horror section under S is Slithis, and on the back of the box, finally, nature unleashes its revenge. From the pollution of our nuclear waste came the killer we couldn't destroy. Our worst nightmares come to life with terrifying, scaly monster Slithis. Nominated for 2 awards by the Science Fiction Horror Academy. Warning. In order to protect yourself from this killer monster, it is strongly suggested that you are prepared with your Slithis survival kit. More on the Slithis survival kit later.
Yeah.
That's a lot of hyperbole. Why don't you explain the story of Slithis to us?
Well, I'll do better. Franklin Browner wrote a little tiny capsule review for it, so I'll just read his review in the voice of Margold.
Okay.
Spawn of Slithis rises from the muck. I refer both to the eponymous sludge creature of the film and of the film itself. Created on an ambitious micro-budget, largely by below-the-line Hollywood professionals, more attention is given to the day player talent than almost any film this reviewer can recall. The result is occasionally awful, but also occasionally masterful and naturalistic, with an almost unreasonable amount of depth afforded to the most minor of characters. Combine this with a seeming dedication to documenting the city of Venice Beach and the fashions of 1977, and we have a horror film with a kind of grit which recalls the early indie movement and street casting of post-Empire Hollywood.
That's by far my favorite review of this. Because it's just you, all right? Just with a pompous voice.
It's just me with a pompous voice. The secret to Franklin Browner is just me with a pompous voice. Yeah.
You're trying to hide behind William Margold, but
Margold is...
In that one, the true Roger came out.
William Margold is a straw man that stands before me.
Okay, so there's a lot of scientific mumbo jumbo about how the Slithis came about,
and I'm sure all of it makes sense.
Yes, I'm sure it does. As a matter of fact, it's too dense, all right, to not make sense.
It makes as much sense as them having ants that grow giant.
Yes, exactly.
So,
but what the movie is a pretty decent little monster movie that takes place in Venice, California. And Venice is shot as well as it's ever been shot.
Yeah,
right?
I have to jump in and say. Yeah. I was freaking out while watching this movie because from the opening shot, which is a long, slow pan of the city of Venice Beach in 1977, 1978.
And there's a bit of a dissolve there, so it's able to actually cover one end of Venice to the other. This movie, from the beach to the canals.
This movie almost serves as a kind of document of the city at that time. There's a sequence in the movie where when the four are coming together to fight the monster, where they're wandering around Venice, and they're basically setting up a shot at every monument in Marina del Rey and the Venice area.
Well, not only that, it even deals with Venice nightlife, Brennigan's, which was a big bar at the time. It actually has the turtle races.
I have to tell you, the fact that they captured the turtle races, the audience watching the turtle races, and this movie has no budget to recreate things. I think I wrote down at one point that when I was watching the movie, I was like, oh my God, Hollywood productions tend to insulate the reality of they produce away all of the reality. This film didn't have that budget. And so they just went to Brennan's and shot Brennan's on like a Saturday night. And it is a gift to anybody who wants to preserve fashion, furniture design, architecture.
I couldn't agree with you more. It's so specific to the city of Venice that it practically almost qualifies as regional filmmaking.
Yeah.
It's not well shot in this sequence, but there's a scene where the Dr. John character, who's like their expert guy that they got working with
them. The groovy
them.
nerd they have.
Yeah, the groovy morning DJ nerd that they have.
Yeah.
All right,
morning DJ.
Well, he has
That's what he's exactly what he's like.
Yeah, he's like did they cast a local DJ from around here?
He played a student in Carrie.
Oh, yeah. He was
in Carrie.
Oh, actually, I remember him in Carrie.
He was in the audience of Black Sunday. Dennis Fault is the actor who played Dr. John.
The two leads, the boring lead guy, and then his really groovy girlfriend, who I really like a lot.
Yeah, she was like Kate Middleton looking. She was fantastic.
Yeah, she's terrific. He shows up to talk about the Slithis, and they're in one of the most perfect 70s Marina del Rey apartments I've ever seen in a movie.
It may not have been dressed at all.
I don't think
it looked too real.
I don't think it was dressed at all.
Yeah.
I think it literally is a situation where they just, this crew member, this director, like, hey, let's go to Sharon's apartment and shoot it there. Okay,
let's go to Mimi Later's apartment.
Let's go to
She was the script supervisor.
Supervisor. Let's go to Billy's apartment and shoot that. Every book in the shelf, every record, every bead curtain, all right, just every pottery plant,
every candle
hanging from a yarn, macrame hanging thing.
Yeah,
all right,
shag carpets
is just perfect. All right, the couch and the designs on the couch are just. I mean, but that apartment in particular, it's like, oh man, if I was doing a movie in this era, I would just show this scene to the production manager and just say, production designer, just do this.
Yeah.
The monster aspect of it is that there's this creature named Slithis that has gotten some radioactivity from a leaking power plant nearby and has grown into a cross between a creature from the Black Lagoon and one of the humanoids from Humanoids of the Deep. He kind of fits squarely right in the middle.
And he has some kind of sucker fish mouth that sucks flesh right off the bone.
Well, the thing that's interesting about Slithis, though,
Spawn of Slithis,
is we've heard you. Okay? The thing that's interesting about Slithis is the idea that, so he is this gilly amphibian type of creature. That's to be sure.
Slow moving out of water.
But he's not just the amphibian fish that either the humanoids from the deep are or that the Gillman is in Rico Browning's version of the creature. Instead, there's every indication that he's made up of shit and scum.
Yeah.
He's actually kind of close to the smog monster in Godzilla versus the Smog Monster.
Yeah, like a culture more than a creature.
Yeah, there is with all the Slithis stuff in there that's been reanimated, there also is shit and fecal matter that has been reanimated.
It falls out of him as he walks.
And guts and this kind of
fish,
just garbage.
Yeah.
There is a garbage aspect to the creature.
It's a smog monster.
This creature is out there wiping out people in Venice. And a smarmy guy who's like my least favorite character in the whole movie. All right. He's a journalist.
A journalist teacher in a high school.
And he starts hearing about these murders happening and he starts putting two and two together. And then he starts trying to investigate them. And
his lovely wife, or is it girlfriend?
Girlfriend.
His lovely girlfriend does not believe any of it.
But they're shacking up.
Yeah, they're shacking up. And she's in love with him. And so she's kind of rolling with it. She's like, oh, whatever.
Well, the guy's not a terrible actor. He's not necessarily good. He's not necessarily bad. He's kind of a putz in the movie. But his girlfriend is wonderful.
Yeah, she's the one who makes me believe that they stay together.
Yeah. And well, not only that, though, even though I think he's kind of a putz, they're kind of sexy together. They're good together. But then he starts meeting these other characters that start becoming like, surrogates for the characters in Jaws. There's the Dr. John character that can figure out aspects about Slithis. And then there's
sort of the Quinn character.
Yeah, and then there's a Quinn character, this like black Jamaican guy. All right, he's got a fishing boat. And so they're all going to team up together and put Slithis down. So that's the monster movie at hand. And it's pretty good. Yeah. As far as that's concerned. Yeah. When it comes to detailing Venice, it's very, very good. Where it becomes truly unique, which Roger's written review touches on it, it's got its main character, but there's a plethora,
a kaleidoscope
of secondary characters
that
are all given a shocking amount of depth. A day player will show up and then just in the little bit of dialogue they have, just reveal a character trait or something important about their life. And it's not crammed in, but it's just like, oh, wow. Okay, now you left that character and the character was just a function for 2 seconds, but I kind of know more about that secondary character than I know about the lead character.
I would almost say that I know more about the day player characters in this movie than I know about most characters in any other movie I've seen. I've frequently heard you have a complaint with characters in movies of like, they don't live any kind of life outside of the plot of this film. And you hate it. I always hear you talking about it.
That's true.
And in this movie, that was not going to happen. According to Steven Traxler, the director, come hell or high water, he was going to make sure.
Slithis is not guilty of that. That is for sure.
There's this great character, Bunky.
Bunky, yeah.
Who's this kind of Venice Beach wino. He's a wino. He and this other guy.
There's a wino and Preston.
Yeah, Preston.
There's Preston
these two
and Bunky.
Winos, and they're at this little fishing boat that I remember was like in the Venice canals and kind of washed ashore and all wrecked up. They're sitting there. They're getting drunk. One guy's kind of passed out and shit his pants. He's sitting there lamenting into the darkness alone. The horrors in Australia weren't any different than in Nam. And why would they be? They're just horrors. It's the same everywhere. And it's like, Jesus Christ.
So what's
that small bit of dialogue told me so much about I didn't need that in this Spawn of Slithis movie. Yeah. And yet it's given to me.
Okay. Him doing, it was obviously in Vietnam, him doing a rant about the horrors in Vietnam. That would be one thing. That fits into the thing and give the non-vets some dialogue. To bring up Australia for just one line in a weird way suggests an entire life.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Because it's like, it's not shorthand for anything else.